And we are back. Welcome back to the Premier League prediction series. After the international break, we finally have Premier League football back on our screens again. And I hope everyone has enjoyed the last 2 weeks. But now it's time to get back in to the main bulk of the season once again. We've got a full programme of fixtures for you in today's video. And before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on this video if you do enjoy these prediction videos. And thank you once again for 1,000 subscribers. If you did miss my videos during the international break, we did hit 1,000 subscribers off the back of the Game Week 8 video. So thank you very much again for 1,000 subscribers. Let's just hope the channel can keep growing and growing from here. And yeah, let's just get straight into all of the Premier League action this weekend. And because it is the end of an international break, that means we must be starting with a Liverpool game in the early kickoff on Saturday, as Jurgen Klopp and all Liverpool fans love to keep moaning about. And guess what? After the next international break, Liverpool are the early kickoff once again. But this time, they start off the game week with a game at home to Everton in the Merseyside Derby. Arguably one of the biggest Merseyside derbies for a while. Liverpool obviously much better placed than they were last season. Everton are performing slightly better than last season, but still not performing probably to the standards that they would hope. However, it has been their away form that has been the standout so far for them this season. Although a trip to Anfield, I feel the way that Liverpool are playing at the moment is going to be a step too far for Everton right now. Who knows? It is the sort of game where form can go out the window, but over the last few years, it really hasn't, and I'm backing it to go that way again. I'm going to go 4-0 to Liverpool. I think they're playing some great football at the moment, and I think it'll be too much for Everton in this week's Merseyside derby, even if Liverpool are going to be missing a couple of players due to them not being back from the international break. On to the first of several 3 o'clock kickoffs this week. We start with Bournemouth taking on Wolves. And I have to be honest with you, I think this is going to be a win for Bournemouth. I don't think there's going to be too much to say about it. I think Bournemouth have played really well so far this season. Don't get me wrong, I think Wolves have played very well so far this season. Of course, beating Manchester City is a hell of an achievement for them. But again, they've just not quite delivered on the standard of their performances so far. And I actually feel like Bournemouth have done a little bit better in that regard. And I just think this is a game that Bournemouth should be targeting as a win. I think it's a game that Bournemouth are going to win. But I'm going to go for 2-1 because I do like the way Wolves have been playing. I can see them getting a goal. But I just think Bournemouth will just end up edging this one 2-1. Next up, it is Brentford against Burnley, a battle of the bees. As we then decide, I don't really know. It's a tough one, this one, because again, Brentford have been good, but not producing results. Burnley, I still feel, haven't learned how difficult this league is compared to the Championship. They're still trying to play their high possession style of play, but that sort of leads to a scenario where I think both teams are going to be playing a style of play that will suit their opponents. Brentford like to sit in and hit counters, but Burnley like to keep possession and try and create their chances from there. So I think it's going to be a very, very even game. I think both sides are in desperate need of a result. So with those things said, I don't think there is going to be a result that favours either of them. And I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Next up, we have arguably the two most free-flowing sides in the Premier League in Manchester City and Brighton as they go head-to-head once again to battle it out for possession and style of play supremacy. Unfortunately for Brighton, their away form hasn't been particularly good, and obviously we saw with the 6-1 against Aston Villa that when things start to get a little bit piled up on them, they do tend to start crumbling. And I think against a side like Manchester City, a crumble is exactly the sort of thing that I could see happening. I'm going to go for 4-1 to Manchester City. I think it all comes down to when and how the goals start going in. I definitely think Brighton will score. I think Manchester City do need to improve defensively if they are going to achieve their targets for this season, but I think at the end of the day, they've got too much attacking power themselves, and eventually Brighton will end up conceding enough goals for Manchester City to start running away with it. Next up, it is Newcastle taking on Crystal Palace. And again, two sides who have played some fantastic football over the last few weeks, and we have to praise the managers for that, especially I think Roy Hodgson for the job he's doing at Crystal Palace at the moment this season. But I think a trip away to St James's Park is going to be a very tough one. Newcastle, of course, have started adding a lot more goals to their team over the last few weeks. They have now, of course, lost Sandro Tonali due to this whole betting scandal. So I don't think that'll be too much of a loss of them, to be honest with you. There is some fitness concerns over Isak and Wilson still, but I think at least one of them will be available for this game. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Newcastle. As I say, I think it's going to be an open game. I think Newcastle are going to get some goals. But I do think Crystal Palace are going to get maybe 1 or potentially even 2 the other way as well, if Newcastle fail to handle the likes of Eze, who is absolutely flying, and Odsonne-Edouard as well. Next up, and the final of the 3 o'clock kickoffs, sees newly promoted Luton Town travel to Nottingham Forest in what I think is going to be a very, very tough game for Luton. Now, as much as I always want Luton to do well, as Dave sits here in his Luton hat, once again, I think this is probably a stretch too far for Luton. I think as well as they've played, especially in some of the away fixtures so far this season, I think Nottingham Forest will definitely be targeting this as a win. However, that could end up playing into Luton's hands. If Nottingham Forest overcommit because they believe they should win, it could see some opportunities for Luton going the other way. However, from what I've seen of Luton in the games that I've watched live, they really need to improve in front of goal. And against a side like Nottingham Forest, who pride themselves on their defensive record at home, I don't think Luton are going to end up scoring this one. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 win to Nottingham Forest. Could be an interesting one, but I think realistically, this is a game that Nottingham Forest are going to win. Next up, the first of 2 evening games on Saturday sees what I would consider to be the main event of the weekend, which is Chelsea taking on Arsenal. Now, over the last few weeks, Chelsea have been building and building and building, improving and improving and improving week in, week out. I have to believe that it's all been building to something big. And I think this is it. Now, don't get me wrong. Arsenal have played some fantastic football. They beat Man City. They drew with Tottenham. They're level on points at the top of the Premier League table. They're going to feel like going into this game that they should be winning this game. And again, don't get me wrong. They probably at the moment should beat Chelsea. However, like I just said, I just feel over the last few weeks, it's been building and building and building to something for Chelsea, and I'm going to go 2-1 to Chelsea. I think they're going to beat Arsenal this weekend. I think this is going to be a culmination of the progress they've made over the past few weeks, and they're going to get the job done. Obviously, if Arsenal win this comfortably, then we know that Chelsea just aren't serious this season, but I do think this is a moment for Chelsea to really stamp their authority on what has been a great couple of weeks for them. Finally, on Saturday, we have the 8 o'clock kickoff between Sheffield United and Manchester United. Now, obviously, as a Manchester United fan who has been very, very concerned about our form, I look at a game like this and think, well, we should win, but we probably won't. However, then you've got to look at the fact that Sheffield United lost 8-0 at home to Newcastle and say, even though we've been poor creatively, surely there's going to be enough opportunities for us in this game to get the result. Yes, there are some key absentees. It looks like Casemiro's not going to be available. There are doubts over Amrabat. It looks like we could have Reguilon back. Our defence is still a little bit up in the air, but our attackers seemingly are all going to be fit and have all performed well in the international break. Rashford scored, Højlund scored, Bruno scored and got a few assists. So I'm hoping that if those players play to the standard that they have over the international break, it will be enough to beat Sheffield United. I'm going to go for 3-1. I think Sheffield United is still going to score. I just don't trust us at the moment to keep clean sheets. And the worry will be if Sheffield United score first, we could be in serious trouble. But I think with the quality that we've got, surely we beat Sheffield United. But again, as always, let me know in the comments if you think we're going to fumble once again. On to the sole game on Sunday, which sees Aston Villa taking on West Ham. And I'm really looking forward to this one. I think this is going to be a great game. Both sides have played some phenomenal football so far this season. I think it's going to be open. There's going to be chances at both ends. There's going to be goals at both ends. But at the end of it all, Aston Villa are going to take it 3-2 in my opinion. But yeah, this is very much a game where I think all 3 results are possible. It's just going to come down to who takes the most chances on the day. I just have a little feeling it's going to be Aston Villa. And then finally, we have the Monday night football between Tottenham Hotspur and Fulham. And look, I have to look at the form and say that Fulham were well beaten by Chelsea. Could have been even more. Tottenham are playing absolutely fantastic stuff at the moment. And I just think it's going to be too much for Fulham. I think Tottenham are going to blow them away. And I'm going to go for a 3-0 win to Spurs to round off this week's predictions. Thank you very much for watching as always. Let me know down in the comments all of your thoughts for this weekend's fixtures. I'll be back with my reaction to the Manchester United game first on Saturday evening. But then in terms of predictions, I'll be back again for the next round of Champions League fixtures on Tuesday. Thank you very much for watching.